Hello, people of Earth and elsewhere. Welcome to the show where the content is spam and I am crackers. Today's variety of spam is what I like to call making the gem man. And that's where I take this interesting looking concept and turn it into something completely different by putting it through the meat grinder that is my interpretation. Now, I apologize beforehand for the quality of the audio and the video, at least when the camera is filming me drawing this gem man. But before we get started on that, how about I tell you a little bit about this guy? Gem Man is not my character. In fact, he's a really interesting story, which is why I'm making this video about it. Gem Man is a character that a friend of mine came up with in one of his college classes when they were assigned to draw fire opals in class, and it was a texturing class, so that should have come out really interesting. Well, he decided that he wanted to take this opal and turn it into a character, a humanoid character like that. Actually, the picture he ended up with was that stick figure at the beginning of the video. And long story short, when I finally found out about this a couple of semesters later, I thought, you know what, that sounds like a really cool idea, and I wanted to draw that. The concept of turning this gem, or at least taking its texture and turning it into a person, really intrigued me, so I asked my friend, hey, can I draw this character that you came up with? He said, yeah, it'll probably turn out better than anything that I did. And here is my attempt at making the Gem Man. Now, I didn't know exactly how much artistic license I was allowed. I mean, he said I could do whatever I wanted with this, but I try to stay true to what a person is thinking about their characters. But given that stick figure, it left pretty much everything to the imagination, and obviously I didn't go all out on what it was that I could have done with this guy. He basically turned out like a male figure, basic male figure, and looks, as some people have told me, kind of like the Silver Surfer, at least when you're looking at it in this shaded version. So I tried to give him an opalish texture, even though that won't be showing up in the finished product. So here he is in all his skewed glory due to the fact that I was drawing on an angle, and now it's time to transfer him to the computer. The program I'm using, in case you can't tell, is Adobe Photoshop, and this is just the point where I'm using the lines, making the lines on this guy. Line art is always kind of a pain in the butt, I will say, but I actually, despite the fact that this thing is sped up a lot, I actually put a lot of time into the lines on this because I put a lot of time into them when I was actually drawing the guy. It looks really different. You can ask some people from my usual drawing style, which is more cartoony, and I tried to make it look less pointy, as my sister would say. What I really can't wait to show you guys is exactly the process I used for coloring this guy, because that's what I was really excited to do, was to try coloring all the textures of this opal, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And I'm about to show you the lazy man's way of doing hands. You see, this guy, let me think, that's his left hand. And I was actually, you can tell here, about to give him two left hands because I am terrible at drawing them, and any artist will probably complain about drawing hands. I used the lazy man's way out because, as you can tell, this other hand, it really wasn't working. So I literally just cut and pasted it and turned that other left hand into a right hand. Ta-da! Laziness at its finest. The lines aren't the most beautiful thing in the world, but it's better than what I used to do in the past. And what I'm doing right now is this octagon-shaped thing. That's something that I use my artistic license for because the lines otherwise just look, well, those particular lines look anatomically incorrect in pretty much any way, and as much as this character isn't human, it still bothered me, so I put that there to kind of take away from that little distraction. I'm starting to do the colors here, and you would have seen the opal that I was using as a reference earlier, and as you can see, the base color is purple. Or this violet, dark periwinkle color, whatever you want to call it. And he's gonna look a lot like how people would depict the purple guy from Five Nights at Freddy's, but I swear he's not gonna look like that for very long. So don't be thinking that. I didn't actually come to that conclusion until I had rewatched this entire process. Oh, and I was also incredibly lazy with his feet because you didn't see me actually drawing that part, but I made them look like something from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or like Ninja Toe feet because, well, I'm lazy and feet are almost as bad as drawing hands. One thing that I did have that I focused on ahead of time was that I wanted to give him black eyes because I thought that it would be a good contrast to all of the other colors all over him. Originally, I was thinking maybe I wanted to make him completely faceless, but I decided that eyes can be really expressive, and well, he's slightly humanoid, so why don't we at least give him eyeballs? And I made them black because obsidian is also a gem, and I think it's really pretty. Here we go. Much less like the purple guy now. You'll see that opal come up a couple more times as I try to color this guy, who is now, with the addition of this orange color, looking like a thermal image out of a thermal imaging camera. Let's put a little bit more detail on the eyeballs. And 1, 2, 3, there we go. And I gave him shiny white pupils just because this is what artistic license does, and it's not horrible, I guess. After I schmutz this around, I'm gonna take care of that little gem in his sternum. Gonna make that a different color for the sake of contrast. There we go. And this is a short preview of what you're about to see me do with the rest of his body to make it look a little bit more deep, to put more depth into it. The thing I liked about the fire opal that I was looking at is that there's a lot of, it looks almost like a nebula is what I would say, and that's what I tried to get across here. Here, these red lines, which are kind of hard to see at this point, are the process of me trying to put a little bit more of a muscular texture underneath, because I figured this guy has a glassy look to him, or at least he will at the end of it all. And you might as well just be looking at something, you'd be looking at his insides. He's almost supposed to be translucent, but there's supposed to be, like I said, keep saying repeatedly, a lot of depth to him. And here we go. These blue lines, at first they just started out as something else to try to give a feeling of depth to them, and they do accomplish that. But eventually I said they kind of look like veins, and if I already made muscly parts, I may as well put like veins, or it looks kind of like a nervous system into him. After I did that to the eyes, I decided why not add the white as well, because veins and arteries come in 2 different colors. And I decided to add that to them. It's very interesting the way the whole thing turned out. I played around with the saturation and the brightness a little bit to see if there was anything I could do to give it just a little bit of a better look, but this is as good as I thought it was going to be turning out. So I smudged stuff around a little just to give it that nebulous look, and then I started shading it. Now, the thing about Photoshop, and probably, I think, yeah, it does this on GIMP too, is you have to select exactly what sections you want to shade. Like, they give you 3 settings. There are the highlights and the shadows and the midtones. And if you have one selected, there are always different tones that are going to look different. Which is like when you're shading the highlights, it's always going to look grayer than if you were shading the midtones. And I had to be really careful of that when it came to this. And then I had to dodge everything, make it look kind of glassy, at least at certain points, and I'm almost finished with his look, see? There we go. Now, the last thing to add to this guy is a background, and anybody who's seen my other artwork knows that my backgrounds are pretty much nothing special to behold. Although it fits well, typically, with the main product, this guy isn't in any sort of scenery whatsoever. I'm just putting a background to him because a black background I thought would be too boring. Put some squiggles here and some squiggles there. And in a little bit, I'll just add some text to him so that you know that his name is Gem Man, because we couldn't call him anything different. It's not my job to rename him. And here we go. Here is the finished product of our Gem Man. I hope that my friend likes this because I had a lot of fun making him, and he actually got a lot more of the effect that I was hoping for. I can imagine him looking a lot different in my head, but as far as how it turned out actually on the computer, he turned out better than I would have hoped. And I hope he turned out to your expectations as well. I'm always open to constructive criticism, so feel free to comment on this video and tell me if there's anything that I could do differently. And if you have any suggestions or any ideas for what I should do in the future, go ahead and say so. You can check out some of my other work on my DeviantArt in the link below. And that's it for this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one.